Hey guys, Bales at FantasyLabs, and I wanted to quickly show you some of the stats in the trends section of our player models for NFL. So we have 5 columns: pro trends, my trends, bargain rating, opponent plus minus allowed, and snaps. So some of you are probably familiar with trends from MLB. This year for NFL, we added my trends, so you'll be able to see all of the trends you create. The pro trends are created by myself and Peter Jennings, CSU Ram 88. And these are just situations that have historically led to value on a particular site. So these are DraftKings quarterback trends. Um, for example, when the total is at least 50 points in a game, um, quarterbacks have seen a plus minus of 0.73, which means they've scored an average of 0.73 points above what you'd expect based on their salary. So you can click on these trends. You can also click trend details, and you'll be able to open up the actual trend within our trends product, see all of the historic performance, the past results that have led to the data, and then current matches. So these are the matches for week 1 of NFL that I'm looking at right now. These players are in games. Obviously, there's some backups in here, but Flacco, Aaron Rodgers are in games with a total above 50 points. So you'll also be able to see your trends right here and within player models, and those are trends that you create in our trends product. Bargain rating we had in baseball and we'll have for every sport, but I can tell you it's very, very, very powerful for NFL. NFL is a price sensitive sport. The pricing matters a lot. And the bargain rating looks at inefficiencies in site pricing, differences in site pricing to not only tell you where you might be able to find value, but just where you should be paying for a player. So if you like Joe Flacco, for example, in week 1, with an 89% bargain rating on DraftKings, that's the place to get exposure to him. It means that he's cheaper there than he is on FanDuel, and it's a really good way to sort of shop for lines in the same way that sports bettors do. That number that means that 89 means that he is in the 89th percentile in terms of the historic difference between quarterback pricing on one site versus the other. Opponent plus minus is a new site or new stat that I created that I think is really, really powerful. I really like it a lot. It might be my favorite stat that we have, and it shows the plus minus that a defense has allowed to a particular position over the past 12 months, over the past 16 games, basically. And so Flacco is playing the Broncos. They allowed a plus minus of 1.5 points per game against quarterbacks, which means that after we adjust for the salaries of the quarterbacks who they faced, they're allowing 1.5 points more than what you'd expect, which means that they have been a pretty poor defense to pick on. A really good defense, a pretty poor defense against quarterbacks, as opposed to, for example, the Chiefs. So Brian Hoyer facing the Chiefs in week 1. The Chiefs have a really good number at negative 2.6, which means they've allowed 2.6 fewer points than what you'd expect per game to quarterbacks based on their salary. My favorite part about it is it's based on salary, and so it adjusts for opponent's strength really, really well. So when it's week 4, for example, and you see some stats about a particular defense that has allowed a lot of points to a certain position, it's really not adjusted for opponent's strength a lot of the time, and so we do that naturally by looking at those trends and adjusting for opponent quality by looking at their pricing. And so it's proven to be very, very powerful. I weight it heavily in my models. It's just a great way to adjust for opponent's strength, and it's also weighted more heavily as the season progresses. So we don't weight every single game the same. So as the season progresses, you'll see current year data going into that more and more and more. So also, you might want to potentially weight that even more as we get into the season and change your model a bit, because that data that we're getting becomes more reliable. And finally, in the trend section, we have snaps, which is just the average number of snaps per game for a player over his past 16 games. So I think that's actually pretty valuable, even though it's a very simple stat, just to get a judge game flow and the tempo of an offense. You can see Breeze, for example. We know that the Saints go no huddle a lot. They're up tempo. He has played 71 offensive snaps per game as opposed to Joe Flacco, who's closer to the average on Baltimore at 65. So those 6 snaps represent, roughly maybe 8.59% of the total, and that's an additional 9% fantasy production, which is pretty big just by looking at those snaps. So this is probably, one of my favorite aspect of player models are these trends. So play around with it. You can weight these factors in your models and see what you can come up with.